Welcome to the Juice Box with Juice Springsteen, covering the week that was in professional wrestling. And welcome to this week's edition of the Juice Box. I am Juice Springsteen. I might sound a little bit different than I normally do, just coming off a little cold. The weather has not been cooperative so far this year. It has been hot. It has been cold for stretches. It has been hot for 2 days and then cold for 10. But, you know, we're on the home stretch. I have a mute button, I have a box of Kleenex near me, and I have a beer with me. So we're all over the place. But once again, I'm Juice Springsteen. This is the Juice Box. You can follow me on Twitter at JuicySteen. You can also follow this podcast, juicysteen.podbean.com. Rate and review this on iTunes if you can. 5 stars, that would be great. You can also find this podcast on Google Podcasts as of last week, which is pretty cool. So check us out there. What else am I forgetting here? Oh yeah, the IG, Juicy Wrestling Closet. Check out those vintage WCW t-shirts. I've got plenty there to look at. We've got plenty to talk about today. Normally this is the, well, I don't have a lot, but we're going to stretch it to 50. It's probably going to be a pretty loaded show today. The order of things really won't be too concise. There's a lot of different topics I want to touch on. We're going to be bouncing around a lot, but I really don't. That doesn't bother me considering we have a ton of stuff to talk about, including a draft coming later tonight. The WWE Draft. We're going to do a little bit of a mock draft. It's tough because NXT is not a part of this draft, I don't think. So we'll just do SmackDown and Raw, and we'll go over a few segments of that, a couple of picks to see who's going to go where, purely because it all really depends on the first pick, whoever that first pick is, and it depends on where Roman Reigns is selected, where things really kind of shake out. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting show today. We're going to cover a lot of stuff, so let's get right into it. First and foremost, Monday Night Raw, they announced the new WWE World Heavyweight Championship. Triple H did, which is fitting because in 2002, Eric Bischoff revealed the Big Gold as the World Heavyweight Championship and handed it over to Triple H. Fortunately for us, Triple H will not be just handing it over to somebody. He said that there will be a tournament. Don't know how many people will be in this tournament. I'm hoping at least 8, with the culmination of the tournament being at Night of Champions, May 27th in Saudi Arabia. The title looks good. I think it's a combination of if the big gold belt was shrunk down, they put the globe design of the North American title with the WWE logo in the middle of it, kind of reminded me of the Cruiserweight title as well. Overall, it really is just like a tinier version of the big gold belt with the WWE logo in the middle, and I don't hate it. It will grow on me. I'm more just invested in the fact that we now get a fully fledged champion that will be there and defend the title, and it's not just Roman Reigns. However, I do think it's a problem that they just said, Roman, you don't defend your title as often as we'd like you to. That's the thing. They kind of buried Roman's title reign and how he goes about defending the title. And for a moment, I'm like, doesn't Triple H realize he's retired and he can't wrestle Roman Reigns for the undisputed Universal title? Because they kind of buried the fact that he doesn't defend it as often. And, he's held, they're 2 titles, so he's had both brands under his thumb for whatever match going forward. So now they have to create a new title to get away from that. Who's to say Roman can't win it? Why wouldn't, there's just certain things that they do with it that I'm curious about. But I think overall the tournament should be a fun little thing to get going. I'm assuming it will begin the night after Backlash, which I'll go into the card of Backlash in a little bit as well. We'll touch on that. But this is really, a 2-week tournament really on Raw, and I would assume SmackDown to determine this new champion. It could be Drew. It could be Seth. It could be Bobby Lashley. It could be Gunther. There's a lot of different talent out there that I think would benefit from having this championship. And I don't know who is that guy. Maybe it's for Omos. Maybe the winner of we're just going to put it together because Omos needs another match to lose on pay-per-view match between Omos and Seth Rollins. Maybe that winner will have a fast track to that new WWE title. But yeah, I like the title design. I love tournament-based stuff. WWE doesn't do it too often, but they've done it for the world title a few times, and I'm here for it. You know what? Now that I say that, the tournament that I loved growing up as like a young, impressionable Ute, that was a huge mark for the business and everything, was the Gold Rush tournament. I want to say that was 2005, but whatever. I think that was a tournament that had the Shawn Michaels super kick of Shelton Benjamin, which has been played over and over again. The Gold Rush tournament was a lot of fun. But yeah, I think that the title's cool. The tournament should be fun. And what's next for Roman? What does it mean? Like, does this mean Roman is... I mean, he has been. He has been unstoppable. He'll get over 1,000 days. Maybe he fights Omos at Night of Champions. There's a lot of different things going on where I think Backlash needs to happen next weekend before I get to decide maybe what the next step is for this new championship. But in the same weekend, we're going to crown a new WWE World Heavyweight Champion, and we're going to have Double or Nothing, which will be fantastic couple of nights of wrestling. So I can't wait for that. Speaking of Monday Night Raw, and speaking of AEW, CM Punk was apparently backstage at Raw for a brief time. There was video of him talking to Tamina, I believe in the parking lot. And then it was also rumored that he kind of made amends with The Miz and Triple H before he, had to leave the building. Which, look, I don't know if this is leverage to get into AEW. I don't know if it's leverage to somehow come back to WWE. I don't know if it's both. I don't know if it's neither. But it is honestly refreshing to hear that he was kind of talking and BSing and hanging out with people I'm sure he hasn't seen in quite a long time in WWE space. And for him to make amends, this is what we hear with Triple H and The Miz, two guys who really haven't had the best things to say dealing with with CM Punk over the course of time. But to see or to hear about Punk maybe making amends with those guys, can't that happen with the Elite? Can't they make money off this? And I like it. It's just step it up, AEW. What are you doing? Can we please get CM Punk in the Elite in a big storyline that we can salivate over and we can throw our money at, because we all know that is the big play, potentially for All In, if not All In, All Out. But we'll have to see about that. The Edge, a little bit of an interesting note here. Edge tweeted out, or he didn't tweet, but it was reported. I saw it on Twitter. I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. I've been sick for a couple of days. Leave me alone. Edge stated that he sees himself, I believe it was a couple of months ago he had kind of put out there that he might, be done in a couple of years, but he's enjoying this last run of, whatever he wants to do, he can do. And he can retire maybe now this time on his own terms. And he said he could still perform, and I don't, why did he have to say this, at an elite level? So, sirens went off across, my airwaves, thinking that, hey, does that mean he's going to go to AEW? Because Christian's in AEW, and I wouldn't hate that at all. And I was thinking, like, man, would they ever do Edge and Christian in AEW? Man, that's a WWE tag team, but the Hardys are over there, so, FTR is over there. Like, it can happen, and I wouldn't hate it. I'd like to see Edge finish his career officially in WWE, but I wouldn't hate seeing him in AEW with Christian for one last run. I think that'd be badass. In fact, I wouldn't mind seeing Edge versus Christian as his last match, but we'll have to see what happens with that. But man, my question through Raw. So we'll get into Raw. We'll get into the matches for Backlash. We'll kind of get into the draft at some point. I'm going to discuss, probably my favorite discussion of this whole thing is the Dark Side of the Ring Season 4 topics that I'd like to delve into a little bit, which will tie into the vintage pay-per-view recommendation. If you know, and you'll know later on in the show. But Raw, the main, now there is a match. It has finally been announced. All throughout the night in Chicago, which that's really the real reason why CM Punk was so close to WWE to begin with. He was going to Chicago. He was there apparently on his flight back from, I believe, Tampa. There were some WWE people on the flight. I'm sure he was like, hey, I'm gonna stop by and say hello. But now we have Bad Bunny, who was, he's almost to the arena. Oh, look at what his Instagram's showing. He's almost here. Bad Bunny showing up after doing Coachella last weekend. Again, he's the number one performer in the world right now. This is such a huge coup for WWE and the Backlash pay-per-view with him hosting it. And now Bad Bunny will take on Damian Priest, another Puerto Rican talent, in a San Juan street fight, which probably won't end the pay-per-view, but I think it kind of should. But it'll probably be for Cody and Brock, which is fine. And it gives Bad Bunny that chance to maybe win sneakily or him lose and it not be a big deal for the crowd, because the crowd's gonna, the crowd's gonna be so hot all night that this show, I really feel, has a lot of potential to be something special to the live audience, to the fans at home watching. It's just the Puerto Rican crowd they have not had a pay-per-view since 2005, and I think they will be salivating at a Bad Bunny match. Damian Priest, again, Puerto Rican, just a lot of talent on this show. Zelina Vega going for the SmackDown Women's title. A lot of cool things happening at this show, and I think they're going to be at a fever pitch. And I can't wait to see Bad Bunny and Damian Priest in a San Juan street fight. Now, a couple things. There was writing, I don't have it up, but like right in front of me, but there was some writing that was on the kendo stick that Bad Bunny used, which I believe was on a baseball bat that Savio Vega had used in the past, and it was the same phrase, which I think is pretty cool. I think Savio Vega, sidebar, is incredibly underrated and without a doubt should be in the WWE Hall of Fame. There's a lot of talent that's in the WWE Hall of Fame that I would say has done less overall in the company than Savio Vega did in his years in the mid-90s, the late 90s in the WWF. But I mean, Caribbean strap match, King of the Ring almost won the whole thing in 95 against Mabel. But it's a great in-ring worker. It's a really talent, and I think he should get in there. But cool to see Bad Bunny pay homage to him. He probably sees Savio as a Hall of Famer as well, which is pretty cool. But yeah, so that, and now with this match being Damian Priest versus Bad Bunny, the question remains, what really is next for Dominic Mysterio? Is Dom gonna, initially I thought this was gonna be Dom and Damian Priest versus Bad Bunny and Rey Mysterio, but at the same time that I'm glad that Rey and Dom are not involved because we get Bad Bunny and Damian Priest. Bad Bunny is going to be the hottest thing at this show, and Damian Priest will still be a hot commodity here, but he'll be a huge heel, and I think it's a huge opportunity for him to not grab a brass ring, but really stand out as a, let's say, semi-main eventer with this match probably going next to last. Maybe it'll open the show. We really don't know. Bad Bunny apparently is still supposed to host it, but the whole pay-per-view. But yeah, Dominic Mysterio, is he going to be lost in the shuffle now? Is he just going to fade away? I'm sure he'll be in the corner of Damian Priest for this match, and I'm sure he'll get involved. Maybe Rey gets involved. That's how you get Bad Bunny the victory. There's going to be ways around it, but I hope that Dominic doesn't fall by the wayside. But I really don't think that's the case. I think he's got some strong stuff coming. And again, this is just one pay-per-view after WrestleMania where his career has really pinnacled. He'll probably have some stuff down the line, some future shows. All right, let's transition now a little bit. Let's do a little bit of this draft business. Let's just talk about the draft in general. I've stated it before that the draft really is based on a competition between SmackDown and Raw that does not exist. Yet they're doing this. Oh, who wants to be on Raw? Raw wants this guy, but why? There's no reason why. Now with this new WWE World Championship, World Heavyweight title, it's a little bit of a stake because it was also mentioned that in the same realm here, that with this new title that's going to be won at a certain point, by the time that title is won for the first time, we will know what brand it will be on. Because whatever brand decides to draft Roman Reigns, that brand will get Roman Reigns, get both titles, and the other brand will then be awarded the WWE World Heavyweight Championship. So I would assume that those titles, the Undisputed Universal title with Roman, will probably stay on SmackDown. And the WWE World title will probably go to Raw. Which I don't hate. At some point, I still think we need someone to take the titles off of Roman. If that guy is Cody, that would mean Cody probably goes to SmackDown as well. So I think wherever Roman goes, Cody probably goes. And if Cody doesn't go to the same brand that Roman goes, look up and down the card. The first or second person that gets drafted to that brand with Roman will probably have the best chance at taking the title from him. I would love to see Gunther. I'd love to see him in a match against Roman. A lot of people still speculate Seth potentially could be a guy that is still left that hasn't done it. But, really, Cody still needs to finish the story. And if that's the case, he should be drafted to the same brand as Roman. With the tag titles, there's a tag title match tonight. It's been speculated Sammy's not wrestling at Night of Champions, it's presumed. He has not wrestled at a Saudi show, and I would assume he's not going to do it at this one. So how could the titles be defended? Maybe there's some sort of schmoz finish where both, something happens with the team, but the tag titles could be potentially split. If that happens, then we could see the same type of thing. I'm hoping that we get split tag titles again. I love to see that dynamic of two brands with two sets of titles. One has the IC, one has the US. They have tag and they have a world title. it's just an easier way to go about doing things, and it makes things a lot more simplified for the fan. Instead of having one champion of both, they wrestle on both. I want roster separation. They got enough guys and girls to do it. Let's do it, So we'll see how that goes. It's also rumored that there might be future brand split specific PLEs, which, oh man, that takes me back to the original brand split, but then even more, that 03 to 06 era where they were pumping out 12 to 15 pay-per-views a year, even at a detriment because of that. But I'm here for more wrestling. They could even alternate the pay-per-views. You could do a Raw pay-per-view at the beginning of a month. The next month could be the big double-branded pay-per-view, and then the following month could be the SmackDown pay-per-view. They've done it before. They could do it again. It's just interesting considering almost every show that WWE runs now is a stadium show. But hey, maybe that more stadium shows, more power to them. I would suppose. So yeah, I mean, a lot of stuff happened with this new title. I'm really interested to see where they go with it. As we start talking a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the draft. Then we'll go into some backlash discussion. In regards to the draft, I would like to see LA Knight, really have a shot anywhere. Like wherever he goes, as long as he has creative direction somewhere, win a match, win matches, do something. Because right now, he's not only in traffic, but I think he might be getting a flat tire and will be on the side of the road for quite some time. He needs to get pushed forward. Steve Austin put him over the other day in an interview. The guy is talented, LA Knight. But without proper creative direction, a guy like that can only go so far. And he is consistently getting the biggest and hottest reactions on every show that he's on. And I think it's a shame that he doesn't get more opportunities in that regard. So hopefully LA Knight gets the right opportunity on the right show. We'll see. Apparently Teddy Long's going to be on SmackDown tonight for the draft, so maybe he'll draft LA Knight. We'll see. So with the draft, here's the thing. We've got a lot of different talents. We don't know if anybody's going to go to NXT, so we'll just stick with, just the main two shows. I'm just not sure that anybody couldn't go to NXT. So to me, anybody could. Anybody could. They just made it seem like it's going to be Raw and SmackDown only. So I think we might see someone come up from NXT. But I don't know if we'll see anybody go down there in the draft. I think we'll see people maybe on NXT show up, which would be cool. But as long as that's not LA Knight, we're in the clear. And here's the other thing. WWE put out a tweet a couple of days ago asking which WWE superstar will be the number one overall pick in the draft. And there's a few ways to look at it. If it's Roman Reigns, that's great. That's almost too obvious. And that brand will then get a bona fide champion, a legend, over 1,000 days as champion, unstoppable. But you probably won't get as many title defenses, and whoever is drafted alongside him will be immediate contenders and chasers for the title. If Roman Reigns is not drafted first, who is drafted first? Could it be a Cody or Brock, where, or like a Gunther, a Seth, where whoever gets drafted first, I would assume that next pick would be Roman Reigns. And then you get a guy who's almost immediately on that other brand as a front runner for the new title, which I think is pretty interesting. Again, the tournament would shape out everything anyway, so it really could be a moot point, whoever does get drafted first, if it's not Roman. What if the first overall pick is a woman? I could easily see Bianca Belair being the number 1 overall pick. She has done wonders in the women's division on Raw. She's held that title for a very long time. I've referred to her as Jane Cena, overcoming all the odds, being a great ambassador for the company. And I think she could be, and very well might be, the number 1 overall pick, and I wouldn't hate that at all. But to me, it all depends on who's drafting first as well. Let's say SmackDown is drafting first because it's their show. It'll be on their show to start. SmackDown gets number 1 overall pick. If I'm SmackDown, I'm picking Roman Reigns. You know, if I'm Raw, I then probably select Bianca or Rhea Ripley. I think it's kind of moot which one. If you have Bianca on your roster, it's probably the best bet. So I'd probably stick with Bianca on Raw. But then you get into that next pick. Like who could you put? I'm taking Gunther. If I'm on SmackDown, I'm taking Gunther. If that's what you want. If you really want a credible challenger. But I think what they'll do is it'll start with Roman on SmackDown. Potentially a woman goes to Raw. I would then say Cody gets drafted to SmackDown. And then you get a Gunther on Raw, which IC title would have to go there. Austin Theory would probably go to SmackDown. You're really going to have a lot of shakeups. Shake things up a bit. We're not going to get in any Vince McMahon talk this week. A lot of chaos surrounding all that, and you can read it all on Twitter. I am not paid nor qualified to discuss such topics at such length. So we will not be doing that at all. That being said, they got to shake things up a bit, and that's how I would do it. I think the IC and US titles should switch. I would keep both women's champions on their respective brands because, let's be real, I think both of them could potentially keep the titles up until WrestleMania 40 and could have a title, not title for title, but who's better? Who's the better woman between Rhea and Bianca? You also, like I said, with this brand split pay-per-views, if they were to do that, you could easily have a combo if SummerSlam or one of the bigger ones is a combined show. Then you could then really pull a trigger on a title against title super match to sell that, even if the titles aren't on the line. Which I think the match should happen at Mania 40, but one of them probably won't be champion by then. But I think the match should still be, as the kids say, a banger. So now let's keep delving into this Backlash card. We'll get into the Backlash card here in a sec. I did want to mention, though, clips of the last couple of days. I saw them on Reddit a few times. I've seen it on Twitter a few times. There are clips of certain moments with Triple H that, ends of pay-per-views, ends of Raw, where, Triple H is standing tall, or he's got the upper hand, or he's being dastardly and beats somebody up. And Jim Ross is on commentary just, damn you son of a bitch! And just excoriating Triple H with so much intensity and fervor, and the hatred for Triple H by Jim Ross was such an underrated piece of not only Triple H's character, but the WWE as a whole. Would Triple H be looked at as such a dastardly heel if it weren't for a guy like Jim Ross to commentate on those types of actions where he's hitting people with sledgehammers, he's beating up Steve Austin, which is JR's favorite guy, and man, it made me reflect on how it not only helped Stone Cold be top guy, having Jim Ross, put him over, but putting Triple H over as this monster heel. Just loved the intensity that he brought to that, and to see all these clips recently really made me realize how great JR really is, how great Triple H really is when he was in the ring. Say what you will about his creative or the pushes that he was given, and nepotism potentially by way of Stephanie McMahon and all that, whatever. Triple H is pretty much beloved now as the runner of WWE on TV, maybe creatively to an extent. He was really revered for his work in NXT, and now he's passed that on to Shawn Michaels, which, man, could you get any... he almost increased the value of NXT by giving it to Shawn Michaels. It's almost... You're in good hands with Triple H, you're in even better hands with Shawn Michaels. Put that on a t-shirt. I definitely wanted to mention that. I also did want to mention a couple things. AEW on Wednesday was pretty good. MJF and Sammy Guevara doing this bromance thing. It's kind of fallen apart. It seems like we're going to end up with a fatal four-way, I still think, at the pay-per-view. So that'll be something. Takeshita getting color from a screwdriver to close out the show, which was interesting. Jeff Jarrett winning a singles match over Dax, and then them announcing the Owen Hart Cup coming back, which is cool considering Owen Hart and Jeff Jarrett's relationship in the 90s, which is pretty remarkable to see. And I thought Adam Cole had again. They're doing a lot of cool stuff with Adam Cole, and he got a buddy to help him. He got Roderick Strong, who had been absent from WWE TV for a long time, and it had been up in the air about where he was going to go or where he was. And lo and behold, there he does. He shows up at AEW Dynamite, helps out his buddy Adam Cole, and they are 2 pieces away from the Undisputed Era becoming a thing in AEW once again. The only other side note that's wrestling related but not totally is the video. If you've seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If not, I should suggest go to Joey Janela's Twitter page. I tweeted this out. I think this is a thing that should happen, but Joey Janela went to... I know he did it, I think, when Drake Wirtz was doing some sort of political thing, and I want to say in Florida, but he went... Janela, this time, he went to Hulk Hogan's, like, a karaoke event where Brian Knobbs was, and he dressed up like a general Florida guy who's super, super politically right, and kind of did his own Sacha Baron Cohen thing. And I think that if there was a pro wrestling version of a Sacha Baron Cohen movie with Joey Janela as the main character going to these types of places, potentially dropping into Knoxville or Knox County, Tennessee, doing things like that, I think a movie like that would do a lot for the industry as a whole. In a positive sense, for sure. So I really think you guys should check out Joey Janela's Twitter for that. It got a lot of traction over the last couple of days, and it's hilarious. So Joey Janela, intermission to PWG in 2017. I talked to him while he was smoking a cigarette after his match. Hell of a guy, fun guy. Went to his spring break event a few times. His first one, which was incredible. So much fun. Started at midnight. Had a blast. Josh Cross got to go to a spring break with me. I got to see PCO versus Walter in a match there at spring break. I saw Marty Jannetty, Virgil, Dan Severn, you name it. Frank the Clown got punched in the face by Joey right in front of me. I had so much fun at those shows. Joey Janela is a great guy, and I really think that he could do well as the pro wrestling version of Sacha Baron Cohen. So I'll leave that there. Let's tap into two more things. They'll be a little longer, but we'll go into the Backlash card next week. I'm not swearing, but I would say it's looking like we'll do a predictions show for Backlash with Josh Eisenberg. I would hope that could be a thing. We'll see if that pans out, and if it does, you'll hear his voice, his lovely voice, his Seinfeld trivia winning voice alongside me next week for the Backlash preview show. Predictions all across the board. That'll be fun. But before we do that, we got to at least talk about the card today, and we'll also close out with the Dark Side of the Ring business. But as of now, we have a 6-man tag between Matt Riddle, KO, Sami Zayn versus Solo, Sikoa, and the Usos. 6-man tag. That should be an incredible match. Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar in a singles match, which is going to say a lot. If Cody doesn't win here, he's got to do something else at the next show and try to reclaim another. Like, he's going to be beaten down a lot. And if he wins, then they got something going, and he can start this momentum towards SummerSlam. If he doesn't win, then he's got to do... God, please. He has to win this match. Rhea Ripley versus Zelina Vega. SmackDown Women's title, which will be a fun match. Zelina Vega is Puerto Rican descent, as well as Damian Priest and Bad Bunny, of course. So they'll have a huge reaction for her. I'm sure she won't win that match. Seth Rollins, Omos. Yep. Austin Theory versus Bobby Lashley versus Bronson Reed in a triple threat match for the U.S. title, which I think could be... and it's an underrated match on paper. But I really think it could pull out some stops and have a good match. And again, we're not going to get into predictions, but I'm not too sure if Theory's going to lose. I think they're going to continue this Bronson Reed-Lashley business further. Io Sky challenges Bianca Belair for the Raw Women's Championship. And like I said with these other matches and just other things I've mentioned in this episode of the pod already, the draft happens tonight, and it continues, I believe, the next Monday on Raw and maybe again on SmackDown. I'm not sure if it goes 2 weeks for both, but the Backlash card is going to look a little different, I think. Again, on paper, once this draft happens, because once the draft happens, there could be people challenging for the U.S. title that aren't on Raw, or people, or Io Sky could be on SmackDown going for the women's title. Zelina Vega could be on Raw challenging for the SmackDown women's title. There's just so many things that could be happening that could change the landscape of what these matches even look like before they happen at the pay-per-view next Saturday night. And then, of course, Bad Bunny, San Benito versus Damian Priest, San Juan street fight. Can't wait. I think Bad Bunny's gonna pull out a lot of stops here. I think he's gonna have a crazy match with Priest here, and it's gonna put Priest even higher up on the map as a potential main event star, which I could not be more proud of. To see him come through the ranks, Punishment Martinez in Ring of Honor, and then now, was it the Archer of Infamy, I believe. He's done such a great job getting to this point now, and I think that it's paying off. It really is with him versus Bad Bunny, and it's really cool because it was Damian Priest with Bad Bunny at WrestleMania 37 that defeated Miz and Morrison, which, full circle now, and now we get both these guys in a blood match. You got Bad Bunny got put through an announce table, then Bad Bunny returned the receipt with kendo shots to Damian Priest, and man, it's going to be a hell of a match, hell of a show. Can't wait for the predictions next week. But let's get into the last portion of today's show, which I'd like to just discuss the dark side of the ring. Season 4. I don't think I watched as many from Season 3 as I did the first 2 seasons, but this season in particular, it is a doozy. I'm going to go over the listing of the episodes, which there are 10. I'm going to do a little bit of my take on what they mean, what they're going to cover, this and that. We'll start off with we'll start from some of the episodes that I really won't know as much about, but I'll be more intrigued to hear more about it that I'm not aware of. The Graham family, which I believe, Mike Graham. I think it goes back a little longer, but I'm really unfamiliar. I'm sure that they will discuss a lot more of that in detail. But I know that family has a long-standing history in Florida, so I'm sure that they'll tackle that in depth as well. Let's see here. Let's see what the other one is, because I wanted to make sure that I went into this with my one specific note on the one episode. Okay, we got Magnum TA, which, if you're not aware, one of the fastest rising stars in the National Wrestling Alliance, the NWA, Jim Crockett Promotions throughout the 80s. And then he almost lost his life, but did become paralyzed after a car accident, I believe in 1987? 86 or 87. And he, what could have been. He really could have been the next big star in wrestling, because he was a massive star, hugely over. So many people were fans of him, and for that to happen, it was really a shame. But I'm sure they'll discuss the rise and fall, and then him just still being around and being around the wrestling business even all these years later after such a just tragic incident happening to him. They're going to go into Junkyard Dog, who is one of the bigger acts in the late 80s WWF, where I know him as well as one of the bigger stars in Mid-South with Bill Watts. But then after that, of course, he left to go to WWE, and potentially his biggest match, feud, whatever, he was with Harley Race. He had some stuff with the Funks as well, of course. But JYD, just a legend in the business, man. And he went back to the NWA after his stint in the WWE. But he died in a car accident, which is very unfortunate, in 1998. So that is a sad story. We've got Chris Candido and Tammy Sitch as one. Now, they were together for a long time. God, Sonny, Tammy Sitch was, they quoted her as the most downloaded woman. She was such a huge topic, fan favorite, pinup girl, what have you, and kind of leader of that movement. It turned into a, not so great looking back in the late 90s with the, bra and panties matches and the Playboy covers. And the Playboy covers were, fine for promotional stuff and what have you. But the other stuff may be more on the degrading women's side, which not as great. But to kick off the whole movement of just women being treated in another way, Miss Elizabeth was such a quiet, woman on screen. And maybe outside of Sensational Sherry being more of a louder person in there, Sunny was a breath of fresh air, really. She was sweet. She was gorgeous. And everybody just loved her. And she was so charismatic. But again, a lot of things got in the way. And she got in a lot of legal trouble over the years. She still is getting in that trouble. And I'm sure they're going to cover a lot of that. Additionally, Chris Candido, who again they were together for a very long time, he unfortunately passed away, I believe, after a issue with staph infection, I want to say, because he had fractured his leg, I want to say, in a TNA match, but then he had pneumonia, and I'll read this here. So it was not a blood clot, but there was acute pneumonia brought on by the surgery that he had to fix the. God, he had plates and screws in his leg. All these are going to be terrible and sad stories, but the more you read about him, it's really, really unfortunate. So that's going to be a tragic story as well. Abdullah the Butcher, I don't know if it's really going to be a tragic story, but it's going to be a hell of one. He's still alive. He's 82, and he, legendary hardcore wrestler, brass knuckles, forks, anything you can imagine. I believe he has I want to say he has a rib restaurant, or he used to have a rib restaurant in Japan, and he might have had one in the States. I think he did close one in the States, so he might have one in Japan still, but legendary hardcore wrestler. He's in the WWE Hall of Fame, and I think that'll be a fascinating story to tell. Marty Jannetty, we all know he was not Shawn Michaels, and he teamed with Shawn Michaels, and it just didn't work out. Shawn Michaels became one of the greatest wrestlers in the history of professional wrestling, and Marty Jannetty did not. The aforementioned Spring Break, he wrestled in that match against Joey Janela. He's just had a lot of problems outside of the ring. He got hired and fired by WWE probably more than anybody else in history. It'll be a fascinating story, to say the least. Doink the Clown, who I believe they'll talk about Matt Bourne as the character and less of the actual Doink the Clown character, although they might be able to portray and show what happened to the character after Matt Bourne didn't have it anymore. But Matt Bourne, who was Big Josh in WCW, which, like a lumberjack character, which I didn't really hate, but he's a very good worker, credible talker. The first few months, that whole heel Doink run with Matt Bourne as Doink is some of the best character work by a wrestler in that era, for sure. And for it to be in the 1993 era of everything's going to be for the kids and everything's happy-go-lucky and everybody has jobs and all this and that, but Doink was a clown that was terrifying and menacing and scary, and I loved, that work. Of course, Matt Bourne left with some issues, and the character, went to numerous other people after the fact, Ray Apollo, among others. But, man, what could have been with Matt Bourne out of the Pacific Northwest. Great wrestler, but I'm sure that'll be an interesting episode as well. And then the last three here are all three things that I am huge fans of. First, we'll do Adrian Adonis, who, man, another what could have been, This is a guy who he really was like ahead of his time, where his character was a very flamboyant character. He always wore pink. He had flowers and bows, some makeup, and he was adorable. Adrian Adonis. His most famous match, feud, what have you, and that's how I knew him. And that's really where, outside of he was one of the guys that got an LJN action figure. Not everybody got one of those. SD Jones got one, and what was the lifter's name? Why can't I think of his name? I'm gonna look it up right now. But Adrian Adonis, though, just the fact that he had this type of character, and it was just a great overall character. He was a great talker, and his biggest biggest match was in the was it hair versus hair? Yeah, hair versus hair match at WrestleMania 3, and against Roddy Piper, and it was just I just remember the match. I remember him getting his hair cut. Ted Arcidi was the random LJN guy. So a lot of guys got LJNs, but Adrian Adonis got an LJN. Great gimmick. Hair versus hair match, Mania 3 with Piper. I love that match. I love the build up to that match, the Saturday Night's Main Event leading up to it. I loved all that stuff. The next year, he passed away in a car accident. It's so tragic and unfortunate. What really could have been with this guy? And again, what was that? Magnum TA died or had a car accident and almost took his life, ended his career. Junkyard Dog passed away in a car accident. And then Adrian Adonis, just tragic stuff all around. But that's what this show really, tackles. And the last two, I've talked about this guy a long time. I really do think Vader is the greatest big man in the history of pro wrestling. But Bam Bam Bigelow is 1A. And I've done it before, and I'll do it again, and I'll keep doing it. Listen to these random stats, but these are all the same guy. This is all Bam Bam Bigelow. Bam Bam Bigelow, in his career, main evented the first Survivor Series in 1987. The following year, he wrestled at Starrcade 88, which is the WCW's version of WrestleMania. He wrestled in New Japan Pro Wrestling from 90 to 92, where he teamed with Vader and had hell of a bunch of tag matches with him and guys alike. He wrestled in the Maniac Herb Abrams UWF promotion. He was in the finals of the first King of the Ring and lost to Bret Hart in 93. He main evented WrestleMania 11 against Lawrence Taylor. He won the ECW World title in 1997. He was half responsible, this is kind of a joke, but half responsible for Goldberg losing the streak, because Goldberg's in the match with Kevin Nash. Bam Bam Bigelow, who had debuted at World War III, kind of coming out and interfering, came out and interfered in this match. Security had to get him away from Goldberg and Nash. And in the fracas, a security guy, Scott Hall, in security garb with a taser, stun-gunned Goldberg, led to the jackknife powerbomb for Kevin Nash winning the whole thing. So, half responsible for Goldberg losing his streak, and then, of course, he wrestled at Greed, which was the WCW final pay-per-view. So, man, just crazy career for Bam Bam Bigelow. And again, another tragic end to his life. So they'll discuss that as well. And then maybe the one I'm looking forward to the most, because I'm a WCW guy, but Bash at the Beach 2000. You know what's going to happen at this show. This is the reason this company's in the damn shape it's in, because of bullshit like this. Hulk Hogan, Vince Russo, Jeff Jarrett. Is it a shoot? Is it a work? Who the hell knows? I want to know. We'll never really truly find out, because it's he said. There's multiple people involved in this, but it's going to be tackled. Lo and behold, it was a great launching point for Booker T to finally win the WCW title, which was awesome. But outside of that, this show is a nightmare. It's a beautiful nightmare. I love rewatching WCW shows, as you guys know, if you follow the show. And 2000 is the near deathbed of the company. In fact, the show happened in July, and by March of the next year, the company folded. So I cannot wait to hear who they got to talk about this show, and what they're really going to cover. Who are we going to get any new information on about the work, the shoot, what have you? Whatever. But I'm thrilled for it. There's also a graveyard match in this thing. I just cannot wait to hear what they have to say. A lot of chaos, but that was WCW in 2000, and I am here for it. And I hope you guys were here for it. The Juice Box this week. Again, sorry for me sounding like garbage. I hit the mute button a few times, but it's tough to mute everything that's going on here. So I appreciate you guys listening if you did. And if you made it through this week, hopefully by next week I sound a little bit better. God knows I sound terrible even before I was sick. But next week, like I said, hopefully we get Josh Eisenberg on here for some Backlash predictions, which would be fantastic. And other than that, yeah, looking forward to the WWE Draft tonight. Should be fantastic. And I'm looking forward to that number one pick. Will it be Roman Reigns? Will it be someone else? And who will be the WWE World Heavyweight Champion on May 27th? We'll find all that out then. But as for next week, that'll be the next time you'll hear this voice and potentially Josh Eisenberg's on the Juice Box. I'm Juice Springsteen. Rate this 5 stars on iTunes if you could. Please don't review that I sounded like garbage, although I wouldn't blame you if you did. But if you do, at least put 5 stars in there. You can listen to this again, juicysteen.podbean.com. Google Podcast, you can find this podcast. Juicy Steen on Twitter. Juicy Wrestling Closet on Instagram. I'm Juice Springsteen, and this has been another episode of The Juice Box. That was The Juice Box with Juice Springsteen. Make sure to subscribe to The Juice Box wherever you listen to podcasts.